Hi, I'm Brady, and welcome to my wonderful world of blunders. In my last video, I waited until the very end of the game to absolutely blow a one game in a really good position. In this game, I managed to do it at the very beginning, in the very first corner, in a Joseki I thought I knew. I'm going to show you what I actually played and how I got destroyed. I'll show you the correct Joseki that I think you should probably know. And then finally, I'll go back to a position just after the Joseki where I was in a little bit of trouble, and I'll ask you what you would play, and then I'll show you a reasonable continuation. Well, let's get into it. My opponent for this game was Mike Lepore. Mike Lepore is a 3-dan, and he's good. He also had a winning record at this year's Congress in the U.S. Open. And Mike is playing black, and his weapon of choice is the 5-4 stone and the 5-4 Joseki. So as soon as he opened with this, I thought for a moment about playing the open corner, but not for long, and I immediately jumped in. I asked my teacher about that later and said, was that all right? And she said, yeah, this is perfectly viable. The reason I did it is because if black has another stone around A or B, it completely changes the Josekis that I know and may lead to a variation that I'm not familiar with. So I thought, while the game is simple, I'll just get through this now. He went ahead and played a normal Joseki, as did I, and then he cut. Now I expected this cut because for some reason in tournament games, people who like the 5-4 love this cut way more than in online games. And I think it's because it's a complicated Joseki, a somewhat one-way street, and it's really easy for white to go wrong. As a matter of fact, the first time I encountered this Joseki as a single-digit Q at the Portland Go Congress, I think it was 2008, I did misplay as white this Joseki and got a result that wasn't game costly but was less than ideal. And when I showed the game to a pro afterwards, the pro said, yeah, there are some Joseki you just have to learn. There are other Joseki you can get away from, whether it be Taisha or the Avalanche Josekis. You can't get sucked into those if you don't want to be. But this one is black's choice. So you really need to learn this as a single digit Q. And I thought I had. So I went and played it. And so far, so good. Everything's going according to plan. So far, it's Joseki. And I played here, and then black played here. And I thought for a minute, and I continued here. This isn't currently correct, not considered Joseki. I'll show the continuation. Mike played here, and I was forced. I continued my way out, and then he played here. My reaction when I saw that stone was, whoa, that's not Joseki. And then I looked for another, minute, and I realized, oh, it's not black that didn't play Joseki. It was me that made a mistake on the Joseki. And I know that in the real Joseki, black doesn't get out. Black does not connect out. And so I immediately cut. But let me back up for just one moment and come back to this position. I will tell you that the game is salvageable for white. Maybe you can't get a result quite as good as the Joseki, but can get a reasonable result in a playable game nonetheless. So with that as a clue, think about where you would play as white. And I probably had 85 minutes left on my clock, so go ahead and think as long as you like about this one. But don't just get one move right. Think about the continuations. If you can get 7 or 8 moves on the board that are a reasonable continuation, that's great. Okay, but let me show you what I did, which was a blunder. I did this, which actually turns out is fine, and black did this. But because I wanted to keep black separate, without thinking or reading too much, I did this. And I swear that Mike gave me a look of pity as he played this move. And I looked at it and realized, oh, I can't get trapped in. I have to play this. And Mike relatively quickly played this, and it was at this point that I sat down and read for 10 minutes. I mean, it would have been really good if I sat down and read for 10 minutes, say, 4 moves earlier. But it was at this point that I did it. And I read, and I read, and I couldn't find an equal result for white. I couldn't find a better result for white. I couldn't find a result for white at all. I couldn't even find a result that connected out to this stone. So I tanuki'd. Okay, this is just terrible. Assuming black captures all those white stones, that's a lot of points, and maybe even more importantly, it's perfect thickness towards the outside. And black's going to have his way with this game. And as much as I tried to complicate the game later, black did have his way with this game. So let me back up and show the Joseki. The Joseki is not this. The purpose of move A is to go ahead and move out, but it's also to assure that B has enough liberties in case black wants to fight between B and this black group right here. And trust me, it works. So the continuation is this. This move actually threatens to kill black, so black goes ahead, takes a forcing move, and then makes sure he has 2 eyes. A and B are mie, so if I take one, he'll get the other. Black's going to live. At that point, I can go ahead and play the pathetic-looking move on the second line, which I actually played in the game, and I'll be fine. White is fine. He can get pushed low, but he's alive and out. This is a Joseki. This is perfectly reasonable for both players, and I wish I played it. Let me show another variation that's interesting, and this used to be considered Joseki. So instead of this play, it used to be thought white can play this, and it would lead to much the same result. Black would push here, white would block, black would force, white would connect, and then black is forced to make a living shape. And this was considered Joseki, well, forever. Until a certain god of Go named Li Chang-ho found this move, which is really amazing. It works in one of 2 ways. If white goes ahead and fixes his shape, then it actually gives black sente. Black can play somewhere else on the board, a large move, say something like this. White can no longer kill with a single move. If white plays something like this, black will continue here and clearly has enough room for 2 eyes. So that one little move gave black sente, which is a huge difference in a Joseki. So if white decides to try to cut through to make sure that can't happen, black will also cut through. White needs to protect his shape, or he's going to get a result much like I saw in the game. And then black can connect back, white fixes his shape again, and so on. So black, instead of getting a second eye in that corner, has fought his way to the outside, which is a far better result. Since this was white's option, white no longer chooses this play. And what was considered a Joseki is no longer a Joseki, which I think is pretty cool, that one strong player can, well, seemingly forever, refute and destroy a well-known Joseki. All right, so I've showed the Joseki. I've showed a couple variations of it. Let's go back to the game with this play, because honestly, when black played this, I went on a little bit on tilt. And for those of you who don't know the term, to go on tilt is a term from initially pinball, and then poker. And the idea is that you're no longer rational, you're emotional, and that's being a little bit on tilt. And I didn't read enough, and I didn't think enough. And what I should have done is that I should have gone up and gotten a cup of coffee, calmed down, taken a few minutes and looked at the board and thought, okay, how should I best continue? And the move that I found is definitely good, the first move. But after that, I already showed that I can't play this because I effectively die. If I want to split and try this, it doesn't work either. This move gives me an extra liberty, but black can still just pull back and I'm straight up dead. So splitting black is no longer an option, and I need to accept that. And I need to recognize that, well, it was me who didn't follow Joseki, and it's me who's going to get a suboptimal result. But is it worth saving these stones and moving out? Well, sure, and that's because these 5 black stones aren't yet alive. They're floating. They're a potential target. So it's absolutely worth my saving these stones here. So white can continue like this. I'll hane on top. He'll also hane. I'll extend, and he'll protect his shape. After black protects his shape, white has his choice of moves. I can play B and split the black groups, or I can be defensive and come out with A and get black to connect but not gain very much. I've got all kinds of options. So this isn't as good as the Joseki, but it's still a game and it's still a perfectly reasonable result. So why, people will ask, why does black need to protect here? Can't black be more aggressive and come out? And the answer is no. Because if black plays that, white's going to instantly cut. And I'll leave all the variations to you, but just please note that this black group is not yet alive and is in danger. And the most likely result is that black's going to push white out and crawl on the second line, and white's going to gain some thickness in the middle. So black doesn't have time for this move here and must protect his shape. Let's go back 2 moves. Doesn't this move look a little funny? Wouldn't it be more natural for white to just play the double tiger's mouth? Well, maybe that's natural, but we need to relearn our nature then, because white can play this, black this, and so on. Sorry, that's a typo. And so on. This result's really bad for white. First of all, black shape may be a little bit better than in the prior variation. Second, white's got this horrible clump with only 3 liberties that's getting chased across the board. And third, and perhaps most important, is black has saved a move. Black is attacking white and has moved out this way and didn't need to directly protect the cutting point at B. So saving a move is increased efficiency, which is great. So this is a horrible result for white by playing this natural looking move, and it explains this. So despite my misplaying the Joseki, it wasn't a lost game, and there was no reason for me to go on tilt. I should have gone and gotten a cup of coffee. One last thing to show is when I played this move here, and he played here, and then I played here, and I mentioned that I looked at this for maybe 10 minutes, and I couldn't find a good continuation. I couldn't find a continuation that linked up to this stone. Well, that was bad reading. Let me show you what I read, and then a continuation that actually does link up. So white's going to extend, and black's going to run out. If white extends again, this is what I read. Black can play here. It's an Atari, so white needs to connect. Black plays Atari, white captures. Black plays Atari, white captures. And then black plays here. White has only 2 liberties and is dead. This is what I read, and this is why I did not continue. Well, I suppose that's fine, except that this wasn't white's only option. White can also play this. Cut, cut, black captures, and then white can crawl all the way back to his stone. So this has 2 interesting side effects. The first is, once all these white stones are alive, it turns out the black corner isn't, and black needs to come back and live. So it actually costs black a move and gives white sente to play a move like this or something else. The other interesting thing about it, though, is it's not necessarily worth playing because black has gained all kinds of thickness towards the center of the board. He even has a pawn nuki facing the center of the board. So this might be a dubious play, especially at this point, but white has to at least know it's there. I need to know I can do it if I need it or if I want it later. Right, so what did I learn from this game? Well, 3 things. First, I relearned this Joseki. I learned it better than I had it before. And again, I recommend this for even single-digit Q players because you're going to see it in a tournament. Second, if you're on tilt or you feel like you might be on tilt, go get a cup of coffee. Third, I learned that even when a Joseki goes bad and you're going to get a suboptimal result, it's not the end of the game. You can find variations that maybe not Joseki, but maybe they only cost you 5 points or something like that, and make the game well worth playing on. So I think that's worth learning. Anyway, so after this game, I was 0-2 in the US Open. Wasn't feeling good about my go. And then I learned that for my next match, I was playing a young guy who had a tremendous reputation as a really good fighter. How do you think that went? Well, to find out, you're going to need to watch the next episode. And I hope to see you then. Thanks.